It's humiliating.
Wait.
It's humiliating,
Wait,
you know?
wait, relax.
Come read this paragraph, okay? Now 15 minutes, go stand over there. Not even sit, stand. You couldn't sit. Sitting was too comfortable.
If working and living in Japan is one of your dreams, one of the easiest ways to do that is to become an English teacher. But is it actually worth it? And what the hell do you need to expect when you're coming to such a different culture as Japan? Today I'm bringing you a crazy interview that will expose every little detail about what it's really like to be a teacher in Japan. Enjoy.
Can you introduce yourself?
My name is Ido, and it wasn't until 2007 that I got to Japan. At that time, I was teaching English for the city of Sapporo under a program called the JET program, and I actually did two 3-year contracts from 2007 to 2010 and 2013 to 2016.
Can you explain how did you apply for the JET program? Like, what was the process? Was it hard? What should people expect when you go through this whole thing? Because JET still exists, right?
Oh yeah, it's actually the number one teacher placement program for public schools in Japan.
Yeah.
So they hire thousands of people and send them all over the country. And I think the idea of the program is really good. But before I get to that, the application process is through the government. So you have to apply through the consulate of the place where you live. And it's a lengthy application process. And it is competitive. So there has to be either a strong interest in Japan, academic success, or experience teaching usually.
Do you get interviewed online or how?
That was, my first time 2007 applying, my second time 2013.
So yeah, just to mention, Ido, when he applied, it was like a while ago, just like you
Right,
said.
and dating myself here.
Maybe things now changed, so
I'm not as old as my white hair suggests, alright? Don't go assuming things. But yeah, definitely it's probably changed by now. But back then we used to apply online also, online form, send in resume, essay, this kind of thing. And then there were, I think, 2 interviews in the process. One was online, the other was in person. And then finally, it's like a maybe 4 or 5 month process before you get notified.
Does it cost money to apply?
Yeah, but not significant. It's more like a processing fee.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then you have to go back to the home country because they pay for the flights, and you come over as a cohort with all the people from that consulate that are coming.
I see.
Not the consulate, the applicants via the consulate.
Once you started teaching, that first year or 2, in general, what were your main responsibilities as a teacher? What did you actually do?
So my position was an assistant language teacher. So that's the acronym is ALT. So I did not have the responsibilities of a teacher, of a full-time teacher. I didn't meet with parents. I didn't have to give grades that were going to be, part of their reports and part of their educational evaluation of how they are as a student. I was hired, and ALTs are hired more to assist the...
It just sounds like, for the accent, like
Yeah.
you're standing on the side and you have the Japanese English teacher and you're like, America, not America.
That's the crazy thing about the JET program, is how unstandardized it is. And you can't believe, because it's a program that invests tens of millions of dollars, or hundreds of millions of yen for the English teachers, but there's almost no standardization. So we used to have an expression that was like from the organization, which is every situation is different. And within my 2 times working in Sapporo JET, the experience was vastly different. And so much of that is determined by the school where you are, by your English teacher that's supervising you, the head English teacher that's kind of your liaison, and by the Board of Education itself. And because there's no standardization, it's a crapshoot. You don't know what you're gonna get.
Okay.
And I couldn't believe how different my experiences were.
So the first one, what did you physically actually do?
So in my first gig, I was very fortunate, I think, because I was placed in high school because I had teaching experience, and I was already like in my late 20s. So there's a lot of people get hired right out of university, early 20s.
You were young. You were young back in the day.
I used to be young, believe that. So I was considered like a little bit senior to people right out of university.
Senpai.
Within this small world, yeah. So they put me in high school. They supported us actually with our difficulties, way different than the second time. So in my school itself, which every school is different as well, my school was an art school, it was an art high school. That was their specialization. So English wasn't the focus. And because of that, the English teachers were way more relaxed, and they wanted me, and they saw that I had experience and talent, so they wanted me to express that and develop that. So I was basically, I created my own curriculum and taught that curriculum for what we would, in the West, we would call sophomores, juniors, and seniors in high school for 3 years.
So
everything was amazing.
They gave you the power to teach the way you wanted to teach.
They gave me the power. They gave me the books that they chose, and they said, if you want to use these books, you can. If you want to create your own stuff, you can. And it really let me create so much material, and everyone was better off for it. Not only was I more interested in the process, but the teachers saw that the students loved it, because I was bringing my Western culture, right? That was the whole point. Bringing my Western culture and creating this curriculum.
Was it the point, or was the point to just teach English?
The real aim of the JET program is to allow Japanese students to have direct, meaningful interactions with Westerners, to better learn about culture and about English, how it's used by native speakers. That is the point. Okay. We're not there to improve their scholastic achievement. We're not there to get them higher scores on the test. We're not there for academic purposes. We're there for cultural purposes, even more than academic.
I actually thought it's the opposite, that it's more like ABCD English, like learn how to...
Again, every situation is different, but in terms of the original aims of the program, which was created in the mid-1980s, as a collaboration between the US government and the Japanese government, was to get more cross-cultural interchange between the two countries. Eventually, then it spread to not just America, but other native English-speaking countries, and now it's even more than that. You have people from all over the world coming in different roles, not just ALT. You talking to me?
Talking to me?
I don't see anybody else here except Vinny.
So how was the interaction with the students?
Again, I'll just compare it with other, Korea and Taiwan, my other places where I taught. And by far, the Japanese students were by far the most passive students, by far.
What do you mean by passive?
Passive. They don't ask questions, they don't confirm information, because the culture here is based on hierarchy in a way that the lower person, in this case the student, should never question the upper person, in this case the teacher, because doing that is like questioning their expertise, questioning in a way their authority. And so there's so little back and forth. If I was waiting for students to raise their hand, I'd be waiting a long time. And part of that is also, they have a culture here in Japan where, it's kind of a senmon culture, which is an expert culture. And they believe that until you become an expert at something, then you should be quiet and not really put yourself out there. Because it's far worse to make a mistake than to remain quiet.
You are there, you have, 30 students? How many students did you have?
Yeah, in the classroom, about 30 to 35.
You're standing there and you're asking a question. You're like, can you read this word? Was there an instance where people were like raising their hands? And like, how does it work? They just...
No, that would be crickets. No reply, all you hear is the background cricket noise. Like,
yeah.
So, basically anything that would force the child to express their opinion or knowledge is going to be a no-no.
But
publicly.
But you asked, so they should.
I know. That's the whole situation, is that it doesn't work like that here because they don't want to put themselves out there. It's so ingrained in the educational culture that students here are passive. They memorize. They don't ask questions, they don't use analytical thinking, they don't probe. They just are receivers of information. And that's how everything is taught here. And it's not so bad for math and science and these things that require memorization and are fact-based. But for language, you have to use it. And this is the main limitation for this Japanese students, which is why the JET program exists. It was supposed to be a way for them to actually use their English. And a lot of what the experiences that the students had with us were outside the classroom, in the hallways or in clubs that we joined after school.
So that's where you interacted with them, and
On a personal level, one to one.
Yeah.
Yes.
So how was it? Like, was it like you didn't have this distance? You were just like kind of like homies.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, you know, they wanted us to be kind of like friends with them, you know? But I was in my late 20s, you know, in my first time. And my second time around, I was in my mid 30s. Like, I'm not gonna be friends with a 16, 17-year-old, you know what I mean? It's a different consciousness, a different level of progression, you know? People who were right out of university were much more able to do that, 22, 23 years old. But as someone with more life experience, you know, when I'm not gonna be, you know, I'm gonna pretend. But
You're
it's
just
not gonna
becoming
be.
an old fart.
Yeah, but it's real though, you know. So I
No.
wanted to give these kids a substantial cultural experience, and you know that was hard. It was really hard to do because you know not only was their English communication so low level, like you gotta understand, the majority of students, even at the high school level that I taught at this school, my second time around it was different, but at that school, they were learning English already for 5-6 years in the school. And if I asked them, what did you do last weekend? They would be like this, movie. They're, okay, what movie did you see? Harry Potter. Okay, how was the movie? Did you enjoy? Yes. Okay, who did you go with? Friend. This is the conversations that you're having with these kids who are learning English for 5 or 6 years. And these are not kids that are nervous to talk to me. I mean, I see these kids almost every day, right? In the classroom and in the school setting.
That's so strange.
And it's because English is taught here as a dead language. It's taught as a dead language, the way you would teach Latin. That's how English is taught in Japan. They do not put value on speaking in the education system.
Oh, okay.
You could be top level student in English and not be able to speak a sentence.
You were assisting the main English teacher, right? First of all, how good was his English or hers?
Variable. I did have some English teaching, Japanese teachers, partners, I guess we could say, who had spent a lot of time abroad. And that was the game changer.
Okay.
If they had spent a lot of time abroad. And a few of them, I would say, were near fluent level. Like very, very high level of English, wonderful. But 80% of them had real limitations. That's why when I was at my first school, that's one of the reasons they gave me so much freedom to create my own curriculum, is because that was an art school. And the English teachers there were not that high level of English themselves. My second stint as a JET English teacher was way different. So that one I was mostly placed in advanced level English high schools. So in Sapporo City, there's different high schools that have different specialization, right? I was at an art one, there's other high school that's math, another one is science, and there's a couple of high schools that have English specialization. And the English teachers at those high schools were way higher level.
I see.
But because of that, they had put in a very rigid English education program. They just regimented it in a way that there was much less freedom. Also, at my first stint, I was the only ALT, I was the only foreigner in the whole school.
Really?
Yeah. At my next stint, there was a team of us, between 2 and 4 other foreigners who were also teaching English, because English was a main focus of that school. So in that way, the system was much more regimented, there was much less freedom. And then some of the classes I was teaching with remedial English, low-level English teachers. Not all the kids were specializing in English. And so at the remedial level of English, the teachers were like the same as my first stint. They weren't very good at English. But they didn't give me the freedom because that school didn't permit ALTs to have freedom. So in those classrooms, I became a voice recorder, which is the nightmare of the English teacher.
Going back to what I said in the beginning, you were just the accent, like what you said, the voice recorder. And it seems like you hated that.
It was humiliating. It's humiliating,
wait,
you know?
relax.
Come read this paragraph, okay? Now 15 minutes, go stand over there. I mean, are you kidding me? Like, you know? Not even sit, stand. You couldn't sit. Sitting was too comfortable. No, you might get comfortable. So go stand in the corner and be a good boy, When I need you to read the next paragraph, then you come back and read the next paragraph, okay? All right, well, let's listen to the tape together, and then you read so they can compare to the tape. Okay, after that, then you read, and they're going to repeat after you. Okay, we're all done. Go stand in the corner again, and just be a good boy. It's been a long time since I talked about these topics.
He needs to release. Okay.
Oh, this is therapeutic.
Yeah. When you were on just...
Moon landings were fake.
How was your relationship with the other teachers?
Well, so we were in the English department offices in Japanese schools and high schools. Each department has their own little office.
Oh, okay.
And so I was with all the other English teachers. And so it's very collaborative in that way because you're sitting with each other, talking, working together, creating ideas and plans. And I really enjoyed that, actually. I really enjoyed that part. Especially when they allowed me the freedom to be creative and to create. So in Japanese culture, there's what's called the enkai culture, which is the drinking party, right? And all organizations in Japan do this. So whether it's a business or whether it's a school, the entire school goes out, or sometimes just a department, will go out together for a drinking party, eat dinner, drink and stuff. And basically, this is like a pressure relief, where people can get drunk, they can talk about their true feelings, they can do funny things and say crazy things, right? I heard teachers saying, I hate being a teacher, I wish I was a different occupation.
So you participated in that?
Yes, we were invited to join them. We were part of the school community for sure. And they wanted us to be part of the community. The teachers also enjoyed talking to us and practicing their English, right? That was also another benefit of us being there.
Sounds fun.
The one rule of the Enkai, there's only one rule in Enkai Club, which is never talk about what happened in the Enkai back at work. Never talk about what happened. And that's a metaphor I say because these people do not talk about their private life in public, in work. In Japan, there's tatemae and there's hone. Okay, most people don't know this, but in Japan, there's actually words that codify two behavior types. And all Japanese instinctively know how to behave with tatemae and how to behave with hone. So tatemae is one's public persona. That's what you go to work with every day, when you go shopping in the supermarket. And that's why many Japanese seem like emotionally distant and like a blank slate. Because they're in their tatemae. So hone is one's true personal feelings. And you will only ever get to know one's hone either through getting drunk together, which is why you never talk about it back at the workplace because the two shall never mix, hone and tatemae. Or if you become very close personal friends. So I had colleagues who worked with each other for years. They didn't know anything about each other. They didn't know their hobbies, what they did on their vacations, what they did with their families, they didn't know anything about each other almost. Because they don't talk about their private life. And that used to drive me crazy, because it's like you have to go and it's like you have two personalities. And for Japanese people, it's very comfortable. And actually, they prefer it that way because that's how they've been brought up. Like, why would you show your private feelings in public? Like, that's reckless, you know what I mean? Why would you do that? You're exposing yourself. For us Westerners, it's inauthentic. We feel like we're with someone fake when someone acts like that. Although we all do it to an extent, it's a much lesser extent. We don't have words for it to describe public personality and private personality. If you talk like that in the West, people are going to think you're a little bit schizo, a little bit, you know what I mean?
Well,
so in Japan, it's way different culture, and I respect that. I'm not criticizing Japanese culture. What I'm saying is, for me, it was very unfulfilling. And so I would try to have real conversations with them, and they become uncomfortable, Like learning more about them.
About last night or just in general?
No, about their families, what their hobbies are, what they like to do. And you can see they become uncomfortable. They don't know how to hold that conversation in the public sphere.
This is so...
That's a cheat code. That's a cheat code right there for Japan. So if you didn't understand what I just said, rewind it, listen again. And then tatemae hone, you say that in Japan, people are going to be like, wow, you have a deeper understanding than I do. I'm going to reveal the main conflict that drove me out of the position, that got me fired.
Next episode.
And it was so ridiculous. It was so ridiculous.
That's crazy.
The head of the English department had to stop him. She said, no, that's enough.